With the rise of literacy and books in 18th century England, literary misbehavior was rampant. Plagiarism was so common it had little meaning. Novels masqueraded as history, and imposters and impersonation were so widespread, the 18th century has been called the Age of Forgery. An early bestseller of the period was a first-hand account of growing up on the island of Formosa, or Taiwan, by an exotic visitor to England named Salmanazar. In London, he became a society darling. He told stories of cannibalism, impressed his hosts by eating raw meat, and taught the rudiments of Formosan, a hitherto unknown language. Salmanazar later confessed to being a French impostor. In the 1760s, a Scot named James Macpherson forged a string of epic tales called the Poems of Ossian. Macpherson claimed they had been handed down from a blind Celtic bard centuries before. Their mood of heroic doom helped spark poetry's Romantic period. Napoleon and Thomas Jefferson were among Ossian's many fans. The hoax wasn't revealed until well into the next century. Also during the 1760s, a boy in Bristol named Thomas Chatterton wrote poetry that he claimed had been written by a 15th century monk, Thomas Rowley. Chatterton said he'd discovered the poems and drawings on parchment in the church next door. The poetry was extravagantly praised, yet Chatterton was unable to make a living from his own writing. In 1770, he drank arsenic and died. He was 17 years old. Some critics later dismissed Chatterton as a fraud, but Romantic poets like Coleridge and Wordsworth, and William Henry Ireland, saw him as a tragic hero. To them, Chatterton was guilty only of using a pen name and backdating his work. Sir Horace Walpole had been one of Chatterton's detractors. Yet when Walpole himself had published his first novel, The Castle of Otranto, he had claimed it was a translation of an old Italian manuscript. Later, when Walpole confessed he was the author of this earliest of Gothic novels, he was praised. How this deception was different from Chatterton's is hard to say. Art forgery was also a popular 18th century pastime. In the famous Jansen portrait, Shakespeare's familiar bald head was found in 1988 to be a paint-over. The paint was probably applied during the Shakespeare craze of the late 1700s. Under the paint was someone else's full head of hair.